Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video here we successfully get all our data and also we check with our this API with the Postman, and you can see it's now perfectly get this data from our database, right? So before I inserted this data manually, so now I want to actually insert this data from our this Postman. Here we'll actually hit one of the API URL, and then when you click as a send, then that will be inserted. I show you everything will be very clear. So friend, as I told you here, they have no graphical interface. So in our project, we'll create that graphical interface. So first of all, understand that how REST API actually works. So here we create, get all that our REST API data. So now I want to insert this data. So if you want to insert it, it's very easy process. I better copy it and then I paste it. So first of all, we have to create one of the URLs. So our URL will be like as a whatever actually you choose. I make it as a class and then /store. Okay, class store, and that is one of the post method, right? Because of all I want to post this data in our database table. So that will be one of the post method. I make it as a post, which is totally fine. And then that is our controller name, right? So into this controller now for store this data, I want to create another method and name it as store. Okay, name it as store. That's all. So now we have to create our this store method in our this controller, right? So now if you want to do that work, go to our controllers. Into this controller after this, okay, after this I want to create another method that will be as a public, and then function, and then our method name as a store method. I want to store this data, and that will be our AND method. So that will be as an AND method, and also a spelling mistake. AND method. Okay, so I make it as a AND method. Perfect. So friend, that is one of the that is one of the post method, right? So that is one of the post method. So when you pass any post method, then you have to pass that also as a request. Okay, so I want to pass that as a request, and then the $request. So I pass that as a request and the $request. So for the post here, we have to pass this request. And first of all, if you want to add some of the validation, you can also add that validation. Like I show you here, I want to use one of the variable as a validate data. Okay, validate data. And then with our request, okay, that means with our this request, I want to add that one of the default function as a validate, that is validate. And here I want to pass by the array. So here I want to take our field name, I name it as a class name. Okay, so that will be as a class underscore name. So that is our class name, and this class name I want to make it as a required. So that will be as a required. Okay, and also if you want to make this class name as a unique for a specific our database table, you can also do it with this pipeline. Then that will be as a unique. Okay, that means only one time you can actually able to use only one name. So that will be as a unique. Unique will be in our which table? That will be unique in our this database table as a S classes. So I copy it. So that will be unique in our this table. Okay, and also if you want to use that as a maximum character limit or the minimum character limit, you can also add it. So right now I make it as only as a maximum. Maximum. There is a maximum limit for this table field. I want to make it as a 25. Okay, 25 character will be allowed. So great. So that is our validation. And now I want to insert this data. So if you want to insert this, so our table name, that is a model name. So if you want to access this table, we have to access it with this model. So I copy it. So now with this model, I want to first of all insert this data. So there is another function as insert. Okay, insert. So now with this insert function, I want to insert it. Okay, so I want to insert this data. So insert this data, first of all our field name, our database field name as a class underscore name. So I name it as a class underscore name, and name will be our requested field name. Okay, so now for now I want to add our request. Okay, requested field name as the same name as a class data, class underscore name. Okay, so that will be our class name. So now I want to insert this data. There is a class name and there is requested our field name. The requested field name, I name it also as a class name, which is totally fine, friend. That's all. Okay, so now that will be inserted. So after that inserted, if you want to show some of the response message, you can also response it like as a return. I make it as a return and the response, return response. I want to display some of the message as a class or a student class. Okay, I make it as a student class inserted successfully. So this type of one of the response data that will be displayed. I hope friend every part is very clear. Okay, so here I have added some of the validation. This field will be as a required and also this field will be as a unique. Okay, and then with this our model, I want to access our this database table, and that means that is actually our database table, and here I want to insert our class name will be our requested class name, and when it will be successfully inserted, then it will be return on the response message as a student class inserted successful. Okay, that's all. So now if you want to check it, now click as a save all. First of all, we have to do that is our API. Our API URL will be what? That will be one of the post method, and that will be one of the class, and then store. So now I want to do that work with our this postman. Better I copy it, and then I want to add new one. I paste it. Okay, so I paste it. So that is our project. That is our project server, and then that's API. And after that API, our name will be as a class, and then store. Better I copy it. So that will be as a class and then store. And also that will be not that get type, that will be one of the post type, right? So from here I want to actually post this data. So make that sure you save it. I click as a save all again. So that will be one of the post method. So that is our post method. And now first of all in our header, we have to add as a access or accept. So that is a accept will be one of the application JSON. So you can see there is an application JSON. So into the header area here you have to pass as a accept as a application JSON, and also content type contain. You can see there is a content type. Content type will be also as a application JSON. So that is another JSON file. So here I pass it as application JSON, which is totally fine. And now in our body, if you go to that body, and into this body that will be as a xwww from URL encoded. So here we have to select it, and you can see there is a key. So into this key area here we have to pass our database field name. Our database field name as a class underscore name, right? So here I also pass it. If you go to that our controller, you can see there is our database field name as a class name. So I want to use that as a class name, and into this class name field area, what data you want to insert? I want to insert like as a class 2. Okay, that will be as a class 2. So friend, if everything okay, that should be inserted, and when it should be inserted, it should be return response on the message data as a student class inserted successful. So now let's check this out. So that is our class 2. Now click as that will be on the post method. Now click as a send. So now you can see it's now showing as a syntax error unexpected this in our SAS controller line 21. So let's check this out what exactly I have done in our SAS controller. That is a 21. That is a validate. You can see that will be obviously one of the equal. Only equal. So I have actually used it. So everything is great. So now let's check this out. Click as a save all. Okay, click as a save all again, and now I want to hit it again. So everything will be same. I want to hit it again as a send. Yes, you can see now it's actually response our which things is response as a student class inserted successful. That means when it will be successfully inserted, then it will be return one of the response data student class inserted successful. So now you can see it's now showing as a student class inserted successful. So now if you go to our database table, and now if you click as a browse, yes, you can see now there is another ID as a 2 and the class as a 2. I hope friend it's very much clear to you. So now I want to insert another one, like here there is a class name. I want to make it as a class name 3. Now click as a send. Student class inserted successful. If you go there, now click as a browse it again. Yes, it's successfully inserted. And I want to use that another one as a 4. Okay, that is our class 4. Now click as a send. Successfully inserted. Now go there. Now click as a refresh. That class 4. So now if you want to get all the data, I have already check it. You can see if before that they have only one data. So now if you also again hit this our URL. Now click as a send. That is our API class. There is another get method, and here you can see there is a 1, the 2, 3, and then the 4. Perfect. So now it's perfectly get all that our data, right? So that is our URL. Okay, friends. So now if you want to edit it, like here I want to edit a specific 3ID data. Okay, so if you want to get that specific 3ID data, then what exactly you have to do? Then simple work. Like in our API, into this API, first of all, we have to create another route. I copy it and then I paste it. So that will be one of the get methods. So I make it as a get method. So now for the edit, that means that I want to edit a specific one row data, right? So here that is our class, and after that class, that is our, I make it as a edit. Okay, edit. So this type of the route, and after that edit, also we have to pass from the ID. Okay, so which ID, a specific ID you want to actually get. So here also we have to pass this our ID. So I want to pass one of the ID. Okay, that will be one of the requested ID. I simply pass it. So that will be the class edit, and then here we have to pass our specific which ID data you want to edit. You have to pass it in here. Now in our AS controller, the AS controller, I want to create another method as edit. Okay, I name it as edit. So if you want to now create this method in our AS controller, now go to our AS controller. After this I name it as a public, and then function, and then our method will be as edit. You can actually use one of the name as a method, and now I'm actually using that edit method. So now that is our and method, and also from here I pass one of the ID, right? So now we have to also pass this ID. So I want to pass it. So that will be our requested ID. Okay, so now we have to get this our specific ID data. So if you want to get this specific ID data, I take one of the variable as S class. Okay, I name it as a S class, and then our model name as a S class. So that is our model. So with this model, now I want to find out a specific one row data. So there is another function as a find. Okay, find or fail. So I name it as a find or fail. So into this find or fail area here, we have to pass our this ID. That means our requested ID. I simply pass it in here as a find or fail our this requested ID. And after that, I want to return it. That means the return one of the response, right? Return response, and return response will be one of the JSON format, right? So with the JSON format, we have to pass it. So I make it as the same JSON, and with this JSON, I have already get a specific our row ID data. I take the things with this variable. Now we have to pass it in here. So before I have already get all data, right? Before I have get all data, and here I pass it in our JSON format. But right now for our edit, I get a specific requested ID data, and then I take it with this variable, and then here I pass it. Okay, friends, so that's all. So now if you also want to check it, like as I click as a save all. Okay, I click as a save all, and now we have to do that will be our edit, and that will be on the get method. But I want to create new one. First of all, I want to copy it. Okay, copy it, and then that will be a new one as the API class store. So that will be not the class store. I want to name it as edit, and then they have on the ID. So I want to use it as a class and then edit, right? And after that edit, I want to right now get a specific 3ID data. So after that I want to make it as a 3. Okay, I want to make it as a 3, and that will be obviously one of the get method, because here I'm actually using that get method, the class edit, and then the ID. So get method, and then API, the class edit, and then our 3ID. Okay, so now if you click as a send, yes, you can see it's now perfectly get a specific 3ID data. So if you want to get as a 2ID data, I make it as a 2, click as a send. Yes, you can see it's now perfectly get a specific or 2ID data. I hope, friend, it's very much clear to you. So now I want to update it, and also if you want to delete it, but I want to continue this process, how you can edit or update this data, and also how you can delete this data. In our next video, I will show you that things with the live example. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.